Well, I was meeting someone I know who is well established in a particular way of life. And he says to me, well, I read so-and-so's book many years ago, and it had a profound effect on me. Well, I myself looked at the book he was referring to, and the person he was referring to, the teacher, the guru, the authority, the founder of a movement. And a key feature from my point of view was that they're not following specifically the Jesus story, although they have mined much information of the story and of, for instance, Christianity and many other religions. What they didn't seem to distill from it was what I think is the essence of Jesus' story, which seems to be, to me, the presentation that if you trust that God is your heavenly dad, that's everything. It's root fundamental to what I see to be a way of life that would bring much more joy and happiness and peace than most people seem to be experiencing, and possibly because they're not taking this story to heart in this way. They're following, say, Christianity and some view of it, or some other religion they're following in it, or what they think to be no religion, modern secularity or something like that, or New Age spiritual paths, So I immediately get the view, from my experience, oh, this poor chap's wasting his time. And I can see he's totally convinced that he's not. He's doing well. But I think from my experience he's missed something crucial and therefore stymied. He's on the wrong path, poor chap. Now, if I can't correct that from my narrow point of view and experience, well, from my point of view, there's not likely to be any other answer, especially the one he's proposing. Because from my experiences, I seem to understand it. This is a necessity, a fundamental. So we've come to a halt, in a sense, in our relating. I can see, in a sense, why he sees life from his point of view. But from my point of view, that's a great poverty. Now, there's no point in him pretending he's teaching me now, from my point of view, because I won't accept it. If anything, he needs to be taught of me, but that's not going to do it, because it's not his experience. So what do I do? Well, we enjoy the meal together. We enjoy each other's company, in that I appreciate his needs. I think I do have the answer, but I'm pretty sure he's locked heavily into what he feels is his answer. And I'm looking to see, does this actually seem to bring him what he hopes for? He says it does. Well, I'm not going to invade that And unfortunately I can't. If I do invade it, he'll just say, well, it's not my experience. I think you should read this so-and-so's founder's works. That's where your real hope should be laying. You know, that's all that we're going to get to, and I'm going to conceivably do the same to him, but to no success. So I take a response of, right, I retreat. In my view, well, God can handle that, and obviously not me. I'm not reaching him. I'm not finding him a problem. I'm not so close to his way of life that it's invading mine. We keep a social distance, that where there's necessary interaction there is, but we're not invading each other's world. You know, seek and you shall find, but if you're not seeking, you're not asking. Ask and it shall be given unto you. I don't want to. Right, that's fine. What's not fine is when someone nonetheless forces it on you. And I'm doing that at the minute, aren't I? This might not be acceptable to you at all, but I'm droning on. Oh my goodness, let me get away from this person. Unfortunately, on something like YouTube, you just flip over to something else. Something that's more in harmony with your hopes and values and so on. So the art of social interaction is not to be invading people all the time. Well, sorry, that's my view. And I think that's sort of some explanation as to why this is my view. If I find this is not your view, there's no point in me keep saying it to you. I can only put it there on the menu. Occasionally. Not so often that it becomes an irritation and a distraction and an annoyance. We end up with a war, a religious strife, spiritual turmoil. So, my solution is offer where you think it might help, and where you start to get resistance, back off fast. But you seem to be up against a wall that's not going to be broken, only result in wars and discord. This is a sort of path of peace, as I understand it. Is it how you understand it? No, Master, it's not. I think you should do so-and-so. Oh, right. Now, this is not to say that I therefore immediately think, oh my goodness, yes, you're right. I may do. You're putting it on the menu for me. If I then say, oh, well, I don't agree with that. You obviously don't agree with me. But anyway, you carry on in social interaction because you wish to trade. You know, I don't know, you want him to cut the hedge and he doesn't want to. Right, okay. And he might not appreciate it if I cut the hedge. Do you mind if I cut it? Oh, it's my hedge. Oh, okay. That's your boundary, is it? Well, legally on the rights, yeah. Oh, I see. So we had some sort of social form of solution to the discord, which we abide by or we don't. If we don't, there may be social consequences. You know, he files an injunction against me for cutting his hedge or letting the hedge grow too high. I file an injunction against him legally, and there's some stress, but we have to abide by what the law then imposes on us. But we might not, subtly. I might throw my garbage into his garden as a revenge. And in the end, the discourse is so terrible, one of you has to move or murder the other person, the whole thing gets extremely out of hand in some, what would be comical, but in fact is some appalling outcome if you're not careful. And we are careful. It's called civilization. One of us moves to a more congenial site, one where you can let your hedge grow, or one where we all agree that hedges must be kept to 1.8 meters or something, according to the law of a society which is in harmony with our values. Sounds trivial like that, but I wonder if discord can all be reduced to this sort of understanding. So society, its imposition on us, is a sort of nervous stability of social interaction, the breach of which may lead to a breach of society. And we find in war society collapses to sometimes both sides. Europe was in ruin after its First and Second World Wars, with appalling suffering and unhappiness, both in the war and as a consequence afterwards. Europe was starving for years. Rationing didn't come off in England until about 1952 or 3. Second World War finished supposedly 5 years earlier, And even then the 50s were poverty compared to the 60s and so on, So our discord can be at appalling cost, and we may seek to be finding ways around that, but we may not be. We may be seeking war as an answer, and sometimes it is. How would it be to be now under fascism or communism? And of course, such citizens as fascists and communists may be thinking, how would it be if we were under this ghastly Western capitalism? But they may not be. They may be desperate in their plight. But before we think, yes, that's true, it's also true that many people in our own society are desperate in their plight. It's just that they're not allowed a voice, though they are in great number. And we may not be hearing it. Is this true? I'm not sure. In some ways I think it's true. But I suppose I think these other societies are worse. I don't want my society to become fascist or communist. But I can see the faults in present society from my point of view and experience, which is not going to be everyone's. Well, my solution to this dilemma is I trust that God has allowed this dilemma for a very good reason. I think that reason might be that it allows us the freedom to love him, because we're not sure that he exists or not. given this eternal tug between what we see as good and what we see as bad. And in it, I look to the good and avoid the bad from my experience here. And I'm assuming this trains me to actually come round to valuing the things of God and the things of life eternal. And that in some sense this experience here is a classroom of training. And my hope and trust is that there is a God and he's a loving God, and that he has all things in hand, and that he will get us to heaven, life eternal. And I'm wondering very earnestly whether this sort of faith, possibly not explained quite as ably as I would, but whether this sort of faith is the best way to go from the point of view of my values as I see them at present, which are what I think is a common list, that we value health, life, opportunity, fellowship, peace, joy, meaning to life, creativity, security, appreciation, communion, blessing, goodness, life abundant, life eternal. Something very closely that may well ultimately be common to all. And I suppose I fundamentally believe this is to be the case. And think this is why I therefore trust what I do trust. What do you think? And does any of this bless you? Or is what you're seeking something else? You know that song, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Jesus' story is, come unto me, all you who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Seek and you shall find. I'm come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And this is life eternal, to know thee, the only true God. In Jesus' terms, he thought in the story, Heavenly Dad. A God that's not judgmental and frightening. Not the Old Testament God at all. But a God of kindness who loves us as his children. A perfect parent. This is make-believe, Marshall. Yes. Does it work? Make-believe it may be, and very simplistic. But if it is true, isn't it wonderful that such a truth can be available to anyone that's had some sort of survival in this world and has come to value similar things? That would make sense, wouldn't it? Childish that may seem. And anyway, whether it's understandable or not, it's not quite the point. A desperate man will try desperate solutions. Are you at the point where this, what appears to be a desperate solution to you, is worth trying? And if you do try it, does it work? If it does, you're not going to turn back, are you? Bless you. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.